sent out a survey via SurveyMonkey, and I asked people what they would like to be different at future panels. And I had several people say that they would have really liked some kind of how to do this proponents. And I felt horrible because I actually didn't think about doing that at all for last year. It's one of those things, you put on a movie, you watch it, you say what you know, but that doesn't mean that everybody understands what you're paying attention to. So I thought it was a really good idea to get this together for this year. I kind of wish I had a more fancy name to it than Film ID 101, but at least you all knew what you were getting into. So put this together. We want it to be helpful for you. We're going to be doing questions at the end, so feel free to come up with whatever question, no matter how big and how small. I'll make sure that somebody here knows how to answer it. Yeah, sorry about that. My one part to say about this, which I'll mention a little bit now and talk a little bit at the end when I'm asking for questions, is I run a Flickr website. And I put together the Flickr website as part of the Association of Moving Image Archivists. I run the Nitrate Committee, and one of the things that got to be a big issue right whenever I became chair of the committee was that we had all these films from all these places that nobody knew what they were, and there wasn't a good one locale for everybody to do that. And so I created a Flickr site that is dedicated to nothing but exactly that, just to get films identified. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that's my one big plug for this. First, we're going to have three panelists. Our first is George Willeman. Most of you already know who he is because George is all things nitrate. He's also all things social. He is all over Facebook, and he usually posts some very entertaining pictures and witticisms. I met George when I was 17, I think. So I've known George for a long time. He's always helpful, he's always friendly, and he's always one of the #1 people that I can go to whenever I need to know what's going on with film. So George is the Nitrate Vault Manager here at the Library of Congress. It has been for quite a long time. So, George Willeman.
Thank you for that effusive introduction. I'll get you your $5 later. Well, good afternoon, everyone. When Rachel asked me to do this, I was pleased, and this is basically a presentation that myself and Anthony, and I think you did part of it too, at the EMEA conference in 2009. And as if this is a 101, I mean, even at that conference, I was afraid that we were preaching to the choir on some of this, because it's very, very basic. But so I hope you will find it. If not educational, you will find the pictures interesting. So I do believe that pictures are worth 1,000 words, or 1,000,000 words, so there's lots of pictures. All right. I'm a Mac person too, so it's going to take me a minute to get this going. There we go. When we get into identifying film, and of course in the world of nitrate, more often than not, we end up getting reels in that are unidentified, that have no titles, and that are basically a mystery to us. So we have different ideas and items that we start looking at to identify them. And one of the first things, of course, is a film gauge, which seems like a real basic thing, but sometimes that can help you sort of give you an idea of when a film is from. And these first few slides are just going to compare some of the different film gauges, most of which you've seen, a couple of which you may not have. The one on here, of course, is 35, everyone knows that, and 28 is fairly familiar. The one on the far right, though, the Mouvette, is an early home movie format that only lasted for a few years, and it actually, you shot your home movies on nitrate 17.5 millimeter in little cartridges, and then you'd send them out, and Mouvette would send you back a safety print along with the nitrate negative. And we have a handful of these upstairs. The only time we've ever seen them, one small group that we have. They're very, very distinctive, and you see they have little perfectly round sprocket holes. Again, to compare with 35 millimeter in the middle, the Edison home kinetoscope, which is an early safety format, which you may have seen our little projector out there in the main room on the first floor. And of course, the ever popular 16 millimeter. Now, when we hit 16 millimeter nitrate, we know pretty much to send it down to the first floor, because 99.99999% of the time, it's not going to be nitrate. It's going to be safety. Although there is an unsubstantiated rumor that some nitrate 16 comes out of the Eastern Bloc countries, Russia, etc. We have not experienced any of that. I don't know if anyone out here might have, but there you go. And a few more home gauges, 9.5, 8, and Super 8. And again, these tend to be safety, and if not safety, if they're early enough, they might be what is referred to as slow burning film. Such I meant to mention that on the 28 millimeter. You can take a 28 millimeter film, and if we've done burn tests on little pieces at the end, and you can light it. It will burn like a candle, very, very slowly. So it's not enough nitrate to be considered true nitrate film. But and in fact, it even says, usually on the Pathé logo, if it's still on there, it'll say slow burning film. So, if you're looking at film and film stock, if you're lucky, a lot of times you will have it say nitrate film right across the edge. There's where the safety, the slow burning film comes in, 20 millimeter. And then of course the triacetate safety film that came to us in the 50s, the replacement for the nitrate that solved all the problems, and we don't have to worry about anything anymore. Kodak was really good about giving us ideas for, and this is what we use so often for identifying a film and at least giving us a time frame on it. These little codes that they put along the edges to show the year of manufacture. They're a repeating code, and we have these charts up in all of our rooms showing how they work. And you can see the Canadian one is slightly different. There's also one I didn't put up there for the British Kodak that is slightly different. Likewise, if you get before a certain year, you can identify them also because Eastman will either put just the name Eastman or a little gray bar on the film. I think that was for like 1914, 1950. Again, as we go along, film companies in the early days would mark their own prints for different purposes. Here's Pathé. Pathé was very good about marking them, and their marks are also very distinctive. They didn't often put the date, but the way that they wrote their name along the edge and what they put across the other edge can often tell you what year the film was produced. And to this end, I would highly recommend, if you don't already have it, to find the book that was put out by FIOF that was written by Harold Brown, or as we call it, the Brown Book with the red cover, which is a really nice essay on different edge codes and things found in film that he found over his long career. Gaumont did the same thing in their time, and Vitagraph, across the top there. Jumping a little ahead into the late 20s, sometimes you will find negatives or even prints that have these little numbers etched in the edge, and there will be one every foot. These are hand-scribed numbers that especially are found on Vitaphone films. Basically, they're footage counters, and that's if the film breaks, it gives the projectionist a way to repair the film back to the exact length so that it stays in sync. Perforations. Perforations changed. There were many different perforations in the beginning of cinema. These are some of the more common ones that you will see. The Bell and Howell Kodak Standard, Dubray, Howell, and CinemaScope. I just found out today, I did not realize this, that the Dubray Howell was designed to replace both of the ones on the left, but it didn't. It's still used, but it's for intermediate films. But still the other two are still found for, well, at least as long as we have film, for prints and for negatives. But if you look, you can see that perforations can often give you an idea of when a film comes from. If you look at the Lubin film on the left, the perforations are very small, and on the right is the Kodak Standard, knowing that is from the 20s. Of course, having the title of the film on there also helps. On the left, the treasured original negative of the Great Train Robbery with the little square Edison perfs that are very, very common on early Edison films. Our laboratory has a special name for these. These are referred to in our laboratory as IBPs, itty bitty perfs. They know if they hit a film with IBPs, it's going to take a lot of work to get it through the machinery, and often it means having to do it, and most times it means having to do an optical. On the right-hand side, the Pathé Frères, kind of a Bell and Howell perf, but not exactly. It's kind of their own version of it. Oh, and it's a really good example of the saying as Pathé would change their leaders in 1905, they actually put the year in the edge. Again, more perforations showing you. And Biograph Biographs are very unique, and you can also, and often you can tell it's a biograph film by the negatives. You can see at the top, the biograph camera actually punched its sprocket holes as it was filming, and it punched one per frame. You can see them there on both the left and right side. You can get a biograph print, and it'll have the standard sprockets on either side, but if you look carefully, and I hope you can see it on there, you can see a little bit on the left edge, you can see the negative sprocket peeking through there. And so that is a really good example, if you're not lucky enough to have the little AB plaque on the wall somewhere, of being able to tell that you are looking at a biograph film. Frame lines. There was no standard for frame lines until 1912, so very often you will see a frame line sitting right on a sprocket hole, like it is on the right. This is an IMP film from 1911, while this Pathé film from 1907 actually has the frame line sitting pretty much where they do today, between the sprockets. And again, here's another couple examples from two different times. Again, Pathé is still, they're putting their sprockets, or their frame lines between the sprockets. Embossing. This you don't see a whole lot, but it is out there. In this case, the Vitagraph company has embossed this print with their copyright logo. Sometimes you will find company logos actually embossed in the edge of the film. Sometimes you will find punch-throughs by different companies. Motion Picture, I've seen, what is it? General Film Company would often punch their name, GF Co, on the edge of in the films, as well as a company number. Censor titles. We come across a lot of these different places. The one for Ohio I had to put up there because I'm from Ohio, so deal with it. Whoop. Where's that going? Go there. I'm not sure if I did that. Yeah. I said it was a Mac person. What is this thing? I knew it was going to happen. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Again, the punches for the Pennsylvania Board of Censors. And the nice thing about this is a lot of the state historical societies have these documentations. So if you can get into those state historical societies, and they won't try to charge you a lot of money for it, you can use these numbers to figure out what this film is. I especially like the one from Kansas. When they say Wheaton. Title identifiers. We've discovered that really, really early titles often have no kind of company names, logos whatsoever, but they're very, very plain looking, as you can see, these are. Although I love the font on the right. But the left one is from an early IMP film. Bet you can't guess what the title is. The right one is from I believe a later Vitagraph film. Not too much later, about 1910. Very shortly, though, and very thankfully for us, the companies decided to start putting identifiers on their titles. In this case, a couple of Alice Guy Blaché films from Solax. The one here, actually the one on the left actually has its title, so we know what it is. But on the right, you can see A Fool and His Money there at the bottom. Again, more ways of identifying. Even though the title on the left is in Dutch, we know that it's a Pathé film, the famous rooster at the bottom. And I love the one on the right, which is a Lubin film, because not only is it called The Price of Jealousy, but it actually has a title saying The Price of Jealousy. And this one I just put up there, this is actually from a film called Bare Knees, made in the late 20s, and this is just a very typical style title that you will see from the late 20s. This font is just like one of the fonts that was used near the end of the silent era, and it's just, you know that when you see something like this, it's going to be from the mid to late 20s, or later.
You know what that font is called?
I do not know.
Silentina.
Silentina.
Is it Silentina? Is that always been the name, or is that just the name now? Okay.
It was originally Pascal.
Pascal. Okay. Another way of identifying some of these early ones is by different types of coloring. And in this case, this is just, a little bit of hand coloring. And as well, this one has the sprocket holes on the frame line. So we can probably tell this is from 1912 or probably earlier. Pathé color, first of all, it's always fun to find this. Second second of all, it helps you identify that it is a, oh man, it did it again, look at that. All right, there we go. What's that happening? The pathé color, of course, is the stencil process, and seeing this color in combination with the edge code will definitely help give you an idea of what year it is from and possibly what it even is. All right, let's see. There we go. Different types of tinting that you will find, and again, combine the tinting. In this case, some of these you can, like on the right, we can combine the tinting with the sprocket holes, the odd-shaped sprocket holes, and the frame line on the sprocket holes to give an indication that it is from before 1912. Different types of toning from different eras, and tinting and toning to give you ideas to help you identify where things come from and what era they're from. The Handschigel process. In this case, it's from the Lights of Old Broadway. This is probably one of the most amazing pieces of Handschigel I've ever seen. This beautiful flag that is so complex. And this roll of film, which hopefully we'll be able to actually see in color someday. This is the big ending of the film where they turn the lights on and the shots switch back and forth between Technicolor, tinting, toning, black and white, and Handschigel for about 5 minutes. But tinting and toning didn't totally go away. This is a shot from Spellbound from print we have upstairs where Leo G. Carroll shoots himself. And this bright blood red flash appears right at the end of the film. Kinemacolor. Kinemacolor has several things that help you identify it. First of all, of course, they put Kinemacolor down the edge. If you look at the top frame, the second sprocket hole down on the left, you notice it's a different shape than the rest of them, which is an identifier to say which color frame that is. And I don't know which color frame that is, I'm sorry. But on the right, you'll see a recreation of what the color kind of looked like. This was actually found as a piece of leader on another film. It's a shot of President William Howard Taft on his yacht. This is another interesting piece of color that we found where every other frame is tinted red so that if you run them fast enough, you will see color. Well, usually, when I heard you just got a headache. Prismacolor. Prismacolor is another color process that you can use to identify